What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Wednesday, July 28th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 10-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. I'm gonna pay up for pitcher here. I like Walker Buehler, and he's pitching against the San Francisco Giants. Walker Buehler is only giving up a .584 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 5 righties here tonight. But the reason that I like this pick is because the Giants have only hit 15 of his last 91 pitches. That's a 165 batting average and a huge sample size. So Walker Buehler is $11,500 FanDuel salary. He's $1,000 less on DraftKings, projected at 30.3 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 2.31. His record is 10-1 on the season, pitching an average of 97 pitches per game, averaging 40 fantasy points per game, and he's been on fire, scoring 50, 49, and 49 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Walker Buehler here versus the San Francisco Giants. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Rhys Hoskins with a 49% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Patrick Corbin. Rhys Hoskins is batting 29% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.071 OPS versus lefties. And Patrick Corbin throws 19% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .872 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because Rhys Hoskins is 6 for 20 with a 300 batting average and a 1.017 OPS versus Corbin. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary. He's $600 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 18, 26, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Rhys Hoskins here versus Patrick Corbin. I also like Joey Votto with a 8% batting advantage over Zach Davies. Joey Votto bats 28% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .920 OPS versus righties. And Zach Davies, he gives up a .601 OPS versus lefties. But the reason that I like this pick is because Joey Votto is 11 for 31 with a 355 batting average and a .928 OPS versus Davies. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary, $600 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's been on fire, scoring 37, 29, and 32 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I'm going to ride the hot hand here. So I like Joey Votto here versus Zach Davies. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Brendan Rodgers with a 47% batting advantage over Andrew Heaney. Brendan Rodgers is batting 38% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .690 OPS versus lefties. And Andrew Heaney, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .772 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Heaney yet, but Brendan Rodgers is only $2,400 FanDuel salary. He's $1,200 more on DraftKings, projected at 8.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 31, 19, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Brendan Rodgers here versus Andrew Heaney. I also like DJ LeMahieu with a 9% batting advantage over Michael Wacha. DJ LeMahieu, he's batting a .853 OPS versus righties, and Michael Wacha, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters. 11% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .982 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because DJ is 6 for 16 with a .375 batting average and a .937 OPS versus Wacha. He's $3,000 FanDuel salary, $1,100 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 13, 9, and 6 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like DJ LeMahieu here versus Michael Wacha. Okay, who do we have at the third base position? I'm going to give you another value play here. I like Gio Urshela with a 22% batting advantage over that same pitcher, Michael Wacha. Gio Urshela is batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .822 OPS versus righties, and Michael Wacha throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .982 OPS versus righties. Gio Urshela is 2 for 5, batting .400 with a 1.4 OPS versus Wacha. He's only $2,600 FanDuel salary. He's $1,100 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 19 and 10 fantasy points in his last 2 games. So I like Gio Urshela here versus Michael Wacha.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Tim Anderson with a 20% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Kris Bubic. Tim Anderson is batting 33% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.108 OPS versus lefties, and Kris Bubic is giving up a .775 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because Tim Anderson is 4 for 9, batting a .444 batting average and a 1.167 OPS versus Bubic. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary, $1,800 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 9, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Tim Anderson here versus Kris Bubic. I also like Jean Segura with a 29% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Patrick Corbin. Jean Segura is batting 10% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .844 OPS versus lefties. And Patrick Corbin, he's throwing 19% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .872 OPS versus righties.
Jean Segura is 8 for 28, batting a .286 batting average and a .712 OPS versus Corbin. So those numbers aren't popping off the page, but Jean Segura is only $3,200 FanDuel salary, and he's only $700 more on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. Projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 21, and 19 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Jean Segura here versus Patrick Corbin. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Nelson Cruz with a 6% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Nestor Cortes. Nelson Cruz is batting 30% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.206 OPS versus lefties, and Nestor Cortes, he's giving up a .865 OPS versus righties. Nelson Cruz is 1 for 1 with a 5 OPS versus Cortes. That one hit was for a home run. He's $4,000 FanDuel salary. He's $1,800 more on DraftKings. Projected at 12.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 22, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Nelson Cruz here versus Nestor Cortes. Okay, now I'm going to give you a couple value plays here. I like Ryan Mountcastle with a 45% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Jordan Holloway. Ryan Mountcastle is batting 6% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .796 OPS versus righties. And Jordan Holloway, he throws his worst ball by far to righty batters, 39% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.264 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Holloway yet, but Ryan Mountcastle is only $2,500 FanDuel salary. He's $1,400 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.7 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 0, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ryan Mountcastle here versus Jordan Holloway. Okay, another value play for you. I like Adam Eaton with a 42% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Chichi Gonzalez. Adam Eaton is batting 43% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .716 OPS versus righties, and Chichi Gonzalez gives up a .881 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Gonzalez yet, but Adam Eaton is only $2,400 FanDuel salary, and he's only $100 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, and he's projected at 8.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 10, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So he is one of my favorite value plays on the slate. So I like Adam Eaton here versus Chichi Gonzalez. Another value play, I like Ben Gamel with a 47% batting advantage over Adrian Hauser. Ben Gamel is batting 15% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .759 OPS versus righties. And Adrian Hauser, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, 32% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .936 OPS versus lefties. Ben Gamel is 3 for 4, batting .750 with a 2.050 OPS versus Hauser. And he's only $2,300 FanDuel salary. He's $100 less on DraftKings, projected at 11 fantasy points here tonight. Now he's only averaging 6 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 6, 0, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ben Gamel here versus Adrian Hauser. Okay, one more value / mid-range play for you. I like David Peralta with a 7% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Jordan Lyles. David Peralta is batting 19% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .776 OPS versus righties, and Jordan Lyles is giving up a .792 OPS versus lefties. And I like this pick because David Peralta is 6 for 20, batting .300 with a .840 OPS versus Lyles. And he's only $3,000 FanDuel salary and only $800 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 4, 9, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like David Peralta here versus Jordan Lyles.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.